Fred Hardman, the man who kept surviving. In 1914, Fred Hardman was a young husband and father from Oldham. Born in Hayward in 1890, Fred had followed his father into the rope-making business. But he was also a soldier, serving with the Territorial 10th Battalion, Manchester Regiment. When war was declared, his battalion was mobilized almost immediately. Fred and his fellow territorials reported for duty, trained hard and prepared to leave Britain. We trained hard and laughed harder. We marched, we ran, we learned the rifle and the bayonet. We were young men, and we were going to war. To us, it felt like an adventure. We had no idea what waited. They sailed for Egypt aboard the RMS Avon. In Egypt, they continued training before being sent to the Dardanelles. On the 9th of May, 1915, they landed under continuous Turkish gunfire. A few weeks later, on the 4th of June, Fred experienced one of the most horrifying moments of his life. As his men climbed from their trenches at Krithia, Turkish machine guns and shrapnel swept across them. Men were cut down almost instantly. Fred later described the trench as being filled with the dead and dying. Then Major Brandreth ordered Fred and his men forward. Fred climbed out and crossed no man's land, only to realize that he was almost completely alone. Many of the men who had followed him had been killed or wounded. But Fred kept going. He gathered around a dozen men and fought their way through uncut barbed wire into the Turkish trenches. Counterattacks trapped them there for 2 days. When they were finally rescued, only 4 of the group were still alive. 6 officers and 88 men had been killed, while 320 were wounded. By August, Fred was one of only 4 of the original 29 officers who had sailed from Southampton. Yet somehow, he survived. After returning to Egypt, Fred later went to France and joined the fighting around the Somme. One freezing night, after hours of shellfire, Fred wrote to his father that he sometimes wondered why he kept surviving while his friends were killed around him. He feared that sooner or later, his luck would change. Then came another nightmare. After a gas attack, Fred failed to secure his mask quickly enough. His eyes were swollen and weeping, while his throat and chest were racked with pain. He was evacuated to hospital in Boulogne. Fred returned to his battalion only to discover that almost all of the men he had known in 1914 were gone. By then, only 6 of the original members were still serving. In September 1918, Fred was evacuated again after suffering from mustard gas. For his extraordinary courage at Gallipoli, Fred Hardman was awarded the Military Cross. He had gone to war as a young husband and father. He came home carrying the memories of a generation that had almost disappeared. Yet through it all, Fred still kept on leading the men beside him. Fred Hardman's story is not simply about surviving a war. It is about courage, endurance, and the terrible price paid by the men of Oldham who went to fight.